There's nothing good. Everything is bad. I hate all the things. You are joining the Cover One Buffalo podcast
And we are
post-game
out.
show because the Buffalo Bills have lost to the previously 1-5, arguably worst team in the NFL, New England Patriots, 29-25. Thank you for joining us today, and we are out.
Oh,
Aaron,
man.
we were joking pre-show. I'm almost more mad that they gave me legitimate hope that, like, all right, well, at least we're going to survive this, and still lots to get mad at, still tons of really frustrating, messy stuff, but at least we came back and survived it, and hey, a win is a win. We'll figure out all the crap that's wrong. And they couldn't even do that.
No, they couldn't. It's going to be a tough week, Greg.
Shout out unsponsored segment here.
Yeah.
Shout out to the guys at Oxford Pennant. I just
Bonus, it does suck.
Pennant.
This sucks. This feeling sucks. Angry Mafia is very vindicated right now.
Justified
in terms of how they feel about this team. I said it before the game started. Like, I didn't care how much I thought this team was going to win by. It was more about looking sharp and executing.
Yes. Yeah.
And I didn't even, honestly, Greg, when I made that point in that tweet, I wasn't even thinking about the defensive side of the ball, but I should have been, because neither
that was
side
the
of the ball
thing
looked
that had
good.
been reassuring the whole time.
Yeah, nobody executed. I think we have to get back to pushing the idea of playoff caliber and not championship caliber, and trying to get back to being a playoff caliber team. And before we get too into this, like, look, I am more on the getting ready to dump on Dorsey this week than I've been in a long time. Yeah. He will have some credit, but it was not just, today was not just a Ken Dorsey sucks problem, and firing him isn't going to fix what we saw today necessarily. There was problems across the board. You don't get beat on the line of scrimmage on both sides for 4 quarters against inferior teams just because one coach sucks. This was, I mean, it would be easier for me to tell you the guys that didn't suck today. James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shakir. That's about the end of my list. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously there weren't a ton of, fantastic schemed up things. I think Ken Dorsey deserves, I don't know about all the smoke that he's going to get this week, because plenty of people will, like, this is the time you have to fire him. Josh was bad today.
Yeah.
Josh missed a ton of open people. Kincaid had I don't know if it was going to be a touchdown, but it looked like it was going to be like a 40+ yard play down the sideline. Multiple plays where I don't know if, he's really tough. Maybe he's gutting through more than what we know about with the shoulder thing, but something was wrong. I don't know what, but he wasn't normal Josh the vast majority of the time today. Like you said, James Cook, I thought ran really tough, like some genuinely hard yards for a smaller guy, and looked great out of the backfield. Easily Dalton Kincaid's best game as a professional. 8 of 8, caught every single target that was thrown to him. And the one that I think we actually got, like, I don't know if it was maybe that was the roughing the passer.
Yes.
Is why it doesn't show as a missed target. Mm-hmm. But you actually could have had probably 9 for like 120 if Josh catches him on that what looked like a seam route or a wheel route up the sideline. Diggs played tough, almost came up with that really good. That would have been, great if he could have come up with that ball late, but it was a huge diving, really tough catch. There's just so many people that I don't know. Horrible drop by Dawson Knox. The depth of the defensive line got roughed up constantly. I don't know. I'm just at a loss.
Yeah, I mean, on the Kincaid stuff, this is where I struggle with the idea of, like, just throwing it at a wall that it's just Dorsey sucks and that's the problem. There was multiple drives in this game for the Bills offense where Dorsey did scheme up some good stuff and had them going, and they were taking away stuff on Diggs, which we know Bill Belichick is known to take away your number one target. And they had looks for Kincaid. They had some stuff going for James Cook. So it was time and time again they had stuff. And I put out a tweet right on that first drive when first play, they're under center, just like everyone wants. They're in 12 personnel, just like everyone wants. They go play action, just like everybody wants. And Josh just drops right into Pepper's hands to start the game off with an interception. And it just felt like that kind of day overall. And it's not all on Josh because he made some incredible plays. But it really, I think, simply comes down to they got handled on both sides of the line of scrimmage in this game. And even the great plays Josh was able to make, it was him pulling off crazy Josh Allen rushing around. He made them look even better than, or, they didn't look good at all, but he made them look better with his ability to evade rushers. He was getting pressured all day long. And so some of that goes into probably some of those misses that we saw downfield, even whether or not he was getting pressure on those plays, just the feeling pressure all day is going to make you get rid of the ball differently. But just a lack of execution, shooting yourself in the foot in key moments on third downs and getting penalties and just not playing clean football overall. The defense very uncharacteristic and giving up multiple, I think I counted 7 explosive plays and only one of them was a defensive explosive for the Patriots. They were all 25 yards to Brown, 26 yards to Brown, like a 33-yarder. This isn't characteristic of a Bills defense playing very sloppy, not tackling well. Like we're used to not tackling well, but you get the swarming tackles with it. And just, I don't know. This is definitely one. I'm so happy this is a short week, Greg, and that I don't have a ton of time to really dig into this game too much because we got to flip around for a preview show tomorrow. So, that might be the only blessing right now for the Bills that comes with this is they also aren't going to have a ton of time to sit around and feel bad for themselves and lick their wounds. They got another game to get ready for here because this one you just want to blast into the sun, dude. Mac Jones led a freaking game-winning drive on you after your offense finally figured something out. You let that happen. Like I'm at a loss, bud.
Yeah. There was a good comment here, Jason. Like I'm trying to be a little bit more specific with the frustration for Kincaid or for Ken Dorsey, because so much of it is like results based of like, I want to score more points. I want it to look easy. I want, everything to look good because there are metrics that are good. So I'm trying to look for some specific things that like, hey, this is an issue. And I thought Jason's comment here, it consistently feels like other teams are able to script together really nice first drives, and we seem to consistently struggle with our first drive and early on. I know there's a comment here from Mark, why do we play down to the level of opposition? Some of that, it seems like we should be able to scheme up those scripted plays. Like why isn't there ever people talking about our scripted plays and our first 15 plays and our, initial, like, oh, we looked at the game plan. We looked at the weaknesses of the other team. New England very consciously was trying to search and give Matt clues pre-snap. Are the Bills in manner zone? Where is Taron Johnson going to be? And they were hunting that to figure it out and using the one like elite athlete that they have on offense in Demario Douglas and use that really smartly. And they were able to do that. They played into the aggression and knowing we were going to bring pressure with tons of screenplays. And that is a viable, intelligent game plan, looking at the opponent, knowing what their strengths are. And I think there are plenty of good things that Ken Dorsey does. You've made a lot of comments about how it's not so much defending him, it's that just the people who outright say, oh, he sucks, he's the worst, we need to fire him. And like, well, there are good things. He's not that terrible. Some of those pieces, I would love to have a few more of those. I would love to have something to like grab onto when someone asks me, okay, well, what is one of those redeeming qualities? What is something that like, hey, he does this really well? And I won't lie, I don't have a thing right now to grab onto to say, well, this is a thing that I know for sure he is above average or a differentiator, or that part is coming together really well. And obviously we'll have time to dig into those things. It's just I've run out of energy to explain or excuse.
I will get killed for talking about this right now because this is not the time to have this conversation. But talking about those scripted plays and starting out hot, it's actually super frustrating because the results don't look like it. If you just go look at the start of this game, obviously it doesn't look right. But obviously that first play is not entirely on Ken Dorsey because, again, it was everything we want it to be, right? 12 personnel, out of under center, play action.
Kincaid was wide open.
You got guys open, and it was just a terrible pass by Josh Allen right into the defender's hand. So that sets you back. And then Patriots get good field position, and now you're down 10-0 right away. So your scripted plays, it's in a tough spot. But then the Bills get the ball back, and they put up a 13-play, 57-yard drive, 7 minutes off the clock, a very balanced drive where they continue to move the ball. But then you get down into the red zone, you get a touchdown, and it's nullified from the pass interference by Murray. And that goes from a 3rd and 7 to a 3rd and 17. And I don't care who your play caller is. There's not a lot of calls for 3rd and 17 in the red zone. And Josh goes scrambling for his life and makes that incomplete pass to Gabe Davis. And then you're stuck kicking a field goal. And so this is where the just being pissed and yelling coaches suck. I get it. Is Ken Dorsey the best offense coordinator in the NFL? No. Is he better than Brian Daboll? I don't know. Brian Daboll had some of these games too. I don't think there's a lot of options right now mid-season that are going to change or improve for the Bills. I don't even think if you gave play calling to Joe Brady, maybe that's an answer. I don't know. Like, he wasn't great in Carolina, and he's had a lot of success. He had a lot of great players in college. Is he a great play caller? I have no idea. It's the same problem that we weren't sure of Ken Dorsey when he was the quarterback's coach, and everybody was pissed at Daboll and saying, well, we'll get Ken Dorsey because Josh Allen likes him. Well, now we have Ken Dorsey, and look, now half those people that were saying just get Ken Dorsey are pissed. And so I don't know. The answer, I don't think, is coming in a change. It's got to be the execution side of things. And you just can't continue to do that. I don't care who the team is that you're playing against in the NFL. If you don't execute when you have those opportunities in the red zone, when you put together a big drive like that and walk away with 3 points, whether you want to blame the refs or not for the offensive pass interference call, I don't care. Like, you got to still play the game. You still got to execute. But the plays were being called, the plays were being made, and just it seemed every time there was a mix of something there. Again, Bruce Nolan loves to use the plurality pie when we're talking about blame. There's a lot of slices coming this way this week for this team.
I think Jason's spot on here. We need the offense to carry more weight, not wait to the fourth quarter. I know, obviously, I think rightfully there's going to be some comments about the officials. There was some weird inconsistency.
Mm-hmm.
We run, Latavius Murray, the defender literally wasn't looking and runs into Latavius Murray, and we get called for offensive pass interference. They run a super similar pick play on their touchdown. They don't get called. There's a handful that
is the narrative.
Yeah, obviously it looks like David Andrews is significantly downfield on that 34-yard screenplay to Ramondre Stevenson. If that gets called back, all of a sudden, that they're not a team that normally comes back from being down behind the sticks.
We did get saved on one. Josh acted on that hit.
Oh yeah,
the one to Kincaid, we got one there. But sure. A sloppy game from the officials, but should never come down to it, right? When you're playing a team like this, shouldn't come down to even those types of calls.
Correct. There's nothing in this game that was because of the officials. There was, I don't know the balance of it. Obviously, all of us watching notice and identify the things that are against us and kind of move past the ones that are in our favor. I know there was a couple that weren't great calls against the Patriots that went their way, but just to get that out of the way, we noticed it too. It wasn't great. That's not why we looked terrible today.
No, and in terms of, I don't know the individual calls themselves, but Bills had 9 penalties for 46 yards. Patriots actually had 8 penalties for 59 yards in the game. So the balance in terms of the calls was probably equally bad, but I don't know about the individual moments in the game.
Yeah. There's a couple things that, we'll talk about some of the end of game scenarios and some of the different pieces as we go through here, but want to make sure we give a shout out to our guys over at West Herr. They're awesome and deserve a drive of the game. I will say, if I was going to go that route, when we were coming out of the half
Mm-hmm.
and put together a nice touchdown drive. It wasn't to take the lead, but it was at least like, okay, all right, I think we got control of this game. We're going to be in good shape. I think that we're going to be able to, get this together and just survive and move on and get a win. So, okay, I'll take that. And, we go back, you give up a field goal. We end up going, go for it twice on fourth down, don't get the one. And it just puts us into one of those spots where it's really, really tough to figure out how we're going to get by. But West Herr is awesome. They've been fantastic to us. They deserve a full drive of the game, even if the Bills don't deserve to be identified with a drive of the game. We won't let that take away from their fantastic support and sponsorship.
Exactly.
Again, one of the largest dealerships in all of New York State and one of the largest employers in Western New York. So good people helping people out. Check them out if you need a car.
Love West Herr. Thank you, guys.
As you talk about those slices of pie that go around, maybe probably the worst offensive line performance of the season.
Not great.
That had been a really kind of sneaky silver lining or not silver lining, like a nice pleasant surprise. Like it was an area we were really concerned with.
Yeah.
And the stat line is going to tell people that Josh Allen was sacked once. He was moved off the spot over and over and over again. And the Patriots only technically hit him 6 times, but the number of pressures in this game, whenever the stats come out, this offensive line was giving up pressure, and the worst kind of pressure, which is up the middle, and just either not having the protection calls put together correctly, and you were giving up untouched free runners straight at Josh Allen, or you were in a spot where, you have to, pinch together because you're getting just blown up right up the middle. And we haven't seen that all season. That hasn't been the kind of play that we've seen all year. They found a way to protect Josh and be a really pleasant surprise. And today looked like a major step back.
I think we saw it a little bit in that Jags game. And it just it wasn't the biggest problem in that game. And so I think we skirted over it and thought that would be cool. But Josh was doing some pretty incredible stuff in that game too, to evade rushers there. But this was bad. The reason this is even so bad is there's no Matthew Judon. There's no Uche. You expect it. And they haven't been able to generate much in terms of pass.
Their interior is good, but not this good.
Not like this. And and so Osiris Torrance, somebody made the comment, looked like a hologram or something today. Like it was a hologram out there today. Yeah, it just, and making mistakes too. On the 3rd and short,
lining up over the ball, which would have been lovely. Just as we're just griping and complaining, just a horrendous production today. CBS, not only their lack of replays, but the consistently bad camera angles. A bunch of times where they had the camera off at something that wasn't the game while the game was going on. Like
there was a rewind moment, like they were just rewinding to get back to the
like a DJ scratching a record. I'm just throwing out things I'm mad about and want to complain about. But that was bad also.
Yeah, but to talk to I want to get back to the offensive line, but
Torrance has been great this year. Today was pretty terrible.
Not a great day. But I want to. One of the things I'm going to look at when I do get around to watching back this game, there seems to be something. I asked Eric about it in a DM in the middle of the game is Josh not calling out the right protections? That's probably one of those issues of coaching or trying to find out who's to blame in those. Cause to your point, there's a lot of moments where there's free rushers. And I can think of one where it looked pretty obvious that New England was bringing rushers on. It was in the red zone and they were doing that play action leak out play, and they had a free rush. As soon as Josh Allen turned around, there was a free rusher right in his face. And I, at this point, expect Josh to maybe get somebody there and call out a protection where somebody's coming in to get that block. Or is Dorsey not giving him those options to get that in there? Those are the kind of questions that I want to know, because I can live with this offensive line having some bad games, but if it is on Dorsey or Josh Allen that they're allowing free rushers through, even though in the broadcast that we're seeing pressure come and they're not picking it up, that to me seems like a problem that is somewhere. And teams, if New England Patriots were able to do that, other teams in this league are going to dial those types of pressures and looks up. And there isn't a quarter like Josh was able to evade some of that stuff, but it definitely forced some of those errant passes that we saw. And no quarterback in the league plays better under pressure than they do with a clean pocket. And I can only count probably on my hand. The only times really Josh got a clean pocket was when the game was a wrap and we had 18 seconds left. Outside of that, I can maybe count 5 times where he had a clean pocket in time to look through his progressions, plant his feet, and make a throw. And so I was frustrated in game on that 15-yard miss to the middle of the field to Stefon Diggs. There was that other one to Kincaid. There was a couple of those misses where it's like, man, you have explosives right there. But at the same time, playing under pressure all day leads to inaccuracy down the field.
Yeah, it leads to unsettled feet. It leads to lack of confidence. You all the stuff you hear other quarterbacks talking about seeing ghosts. Like Josh does a lot better than those guys do, but he still puts himself into a position where it's there. And I know Eric's talked about some things before that I'm sure will be part of breakdowns this week where, it seems like other teams are picking some things out from us, like maybe identifying hot routes and some of the different calls that we're making and having more counters. So I don't know if we need to change some things up in language or a little more diversity or changing some things that we haven't, maybe we're repeating things too often or making it too identifiable for defenses to be able to pick out and make adjustments towards. So obviously, I don't know. I don't know the answer to those things. I don't know where those things are going to need to come from, but
I'll piggyback on that thought, though.
A huge wake-up call.
That was probably when they hired Ken Dorsey to be the offensive coordinator of this team. My concerns were lack of play calling experience doesn't always translate just because, but everyone was like, well, he's friends with Josh, right? Like, and so we'll be able to do it. But I honestly, my concern this whole time isn't that I don't think he is actually a bad play caller. I think that there are some good play calls in here, but we hear all the time, and we heard it going into this game, of getting stuff that the players are comfortable with. And I understand that, but I wonder sometimes, does he lean too into being like trying to cater to what Josh wants to do or trying to cater to what the players want to do instead of really looking at how defenses are playing you, instead of just doing what the team is always comfortable doing. If it's too predictable and teams are finding it and taking away your hot routes and stuff, then you need to adapt to that. And so that's going to be the thing interesting to see going forward as we break these tapes down. Is he making those changes, or is he just leaning into what they think they're good at?
Yeah, and it's not like the end of Major League where it's like, screw it, bring them the heater, Ricky. Like, no, like just because our fastball is really good, and it is, like, this doesn't change anything. Like there are still moments. Obviously, we saw it for those flashes in the third and fourth quarter. There were all of a sudden like, oh yeah, we can just flip a switch and just march right down the field on teams. When those things happen, it is a reminder that we have that there, but it would be great to see more variance. It would be great to see opportunities to mix things up, to bring in more different things.
I would love to be banned from this show actually right now here. Brandon, I don't know how to pronounce your last name and I'll butcher it. First of all, thanks for the money. I get half of that. Aaron Quinn should be banned from this show. Dorsey's awful, bro. There's no scheme, zero. And still with the shotgun handoff, just stop it. I don't know about the shotgun handoff thing. I actually want to see more run game. And again, I'm not happy with Ken Dorsey right now. I'm not happy with the last 3 weeks of this offense. I'm not happy that they weren't able to go down and score it well early in this game against this New England Patriots team. But I'm not going to sit here and just pile on all of the blame on this guy, because I saw multiple drives where they had chances to put points on the board, and it wasn't anything that the coach did. I don't care who the coach is on that other side. Like, they shot themselves in the foot on a number of these things, whether it was errant throws by Josh, a bad call on that second drive like we talked about, the Dawson Knox dropping a 4th and 2 that Allen put on a dime to him. The offensive line played terrible. So again, it's okay. I'm ready to criticize Ken Dorsey. I'm not talking about, and go for it. Everybody can go off on him. All I'm saying is we also have to place these blames on some of the other guys. There is multiple slices of this pie to go around, and Ken Dorsey has a part of that.
Yeah.
But yes, please ban me from the show, Greg. I would like to not do this the rest of the night.
Yeah. I apologize to the audience here. You're stuck with Aaron. So
sorry about
Brandon,
that, guys.
I'm going to have to decline your request, because then I'd have to do this by myself, and this sucks enough as it is.
No good.
And, obviously it's always difficult when the hard reality is I don't know if it's the biggest, one of the biggest slices of pie today is our franchise quarterback. Like, he was bad today. He wasn't good. Like, now maybe he's hurt.
Yeah, how
Maybe
much is
there's,
the injury?
his protection wasn't good. The offensive line deserves a nice, healthy slice of pie. There are lots of things here where, again, no one is the reason, but you might be able to make an argument today that Josh is more at fault than Ken Dorsey, and it's okay to blame him there. Ken Dorsey has a big slice of pie. They probably have the two most between the two of them in the offensive line. Those three are there, but we have to be able to blame all the different places, and some of those, as Pete says
Defense
here,
has
the
a big chunk of
execution
the
of simple
pie.
plays. Yeah, and no example is better than if we drive right down the field on the first drive and answer 7-3 and put them back in their place and make it, they're like, hey, settle down. You're not going to be able to hang here today. And instead, everyone watched Josh completely brain fart and just not realize that, hey, Jabril Peppers is floating downfield because he sees that you have no interest in checking down to the wide open Dalton Kincaid. So he's going to just float downfield and be in your line of sight because he can tell you don't want to, you just don't feel like checking down. You just don't want to. So again, Ken Dorsey needs to do better. I want to see more easy plays. I want to see more of some of the interesting, some of the stuff we watched New England do, that Bill O'Brien did, to like, hey, how do you identify whether they're in man or zone, with some aggressive, they did some early motion to identify it and then got into their actual pre-snap motion. Like, there was multiple where they were able to do that and to float through there. So just some different things that we'll get into. And again, I'll trust Eric and Anthony to do some breakdowns there to see, hey, what else could we be doing much more efficiently and effectively from a play calling standpoint? Where should we use more pre-snap motion? Where should we use different play action? Where should we use what is the timing of the scenarios where under center, where we were in shotgun and could have been under center in that scenario? Because it's not just, oh, let's switch to a 100% under center. It's that we need to use it better and in scenarios where we're not. So some of those things we'll bring up time to be able to do. We've spent a lot of time on the play calling, on the quarterback, on the blocking.
Can I get one more in on the quarterback?
Yeah, please.
Somebody brought it up. Where's Josh Allen runs? And again, that's probably one of my bigger beefs right now. Again, with Ken Dorsey, is I've been a big fan of this always weaponizing Josh Allen, and even just the threat of the run and maintaining that is real. And I know defenses put spies in, and even when he's not running, there is the threat, but you have to run it sometimes. And there was a play, actually, I think it was the 4th and 2 that Knox dropped.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Ken Dorsey in his ear or Sean McDermott, and after the first game,
or a combination
of people,
Beane and McDermott and Dorsey and everybody
in the media and everybody just not
Yeah.
wanting him to run it and not wanting him to take hits. He should have run it on that 4th and 2. He had it. And there was a number of plays where he was in that scramble mode and he's just chucking the ball downfield in what is really inefficient throws where he had space to run. And I don't want him taking needless hits in a game in October. But when your offense is struggling to do stuff, that is where Josh Allen needs to be Josh Allen. And we saw him playing more aggressively, obviously throwing the ball and stuff, but we saw him playing more aggressively in the second half. And the physical tone that he sets when he's moving and running around does spark this offense. And so some of these times when you're stalling to get stuff, that's when I don't mind generating a Josh Allen designed run where you get him out in space and get him going and get him juiced up to keep playing, because they are coming out flat. Like, we aren't seeing the execution early on. And so I would love to see that become more back end part of this offense, is getting Josh Allen moving and just having that threat, even if it's just rolling him out intentionally, getting him away from pressure, and then saying, hey, if stuff's not there, we want you to take it down and run. Because when you neuter his legs, it really changes the way this offense plays.
Yeah. Just a quick one here. Matthias asking a question here that I mean this very genuinely. No, it's actually the opposite. So his comment here is just a thought. Why are all crucial plays go to Knox when Kincaid clearly has better hands? That's a factual statement. I agree.
Yeah.
Dalton Kincaid seems to have fantastic hands.
Yeah.
Dawson Knox, whatever degree you want to argue of like, hey, his drops aren't quite as bad as what people think. He had a really, really painful one today that he has to do it at critical moments, that he can't drop the ball, and he did again today. Is that not on Dorsey? No, it's not. Like, no offensive coordinator says, hey, this play is for Dawson Knox. Now, some of them have a first read, a second read, a third read. I will go out on a limb here and say there are very, very, very few plays in our playbook where Dawson Knox is the first read. I won't say zero.
That's been one of my criticism of Dorsey.
Where there's a leak and some different things. Today, we actually saw for the first time where I felt like Dalton Kincaid was the first read on a couple of plays. So I don't know exactly how you meant this question, Matthias, but I want from that standpoint, that is a Josh decision. Once you get into the play and the number of receivers in the play, he is choosing where to go with it. And I would say Dawson Knox, the number of plays where he's the primary read is probably 5th or 6th in this offense. It's really, really low of when Ken Dorsey is saying, hey, the most likely one here. And it's the ones you see where it's like, hey, Dawson's in the block, and then he leaks out where it's intended to catch them by surprise. Those are the ones where Knox is the primary read. Everything else is Josh just playing football and looking for who's open. So that part of it is actually not on Dorsey. That's a Josh thing.
No, and it's been the last offseason, Greg, when we ended the season. What my biggest complaint about Ken Dorsey was, I think Gabe Davis is a good wide receiver too. I don't think that he's utilized him right in terms of progressions in the offense. Same with Dawson Knox. Like, the drops are frustrating. I'm not going to defend them. They're not in good spots. He had a number of also decent plays in this game as well, and he is a good blocker. Like, there's a role for him in this offense, not as the primary pass catcher, but he needs to be a target more often. And then we saw the complaints about Kincaid and his production and lack of usage, and we saw more of that today. But on that 4th and 2 play that went to Knox that he dropped, he wasn't the main progression. I'm pretty sure they motioned out Cook to Diggs side, and they ran basically mirrored concepts with both the receivers. And it was supposed to be one of those plays where Cook comes on the inside and Diggs goes to the outside. Patriots had it totally locked up, and Knox was just drifting across the middle. He was the only player open. That's why the ball goes to him. But again, in that moment, Josh should take that down and run it. But to your point of this is why, again, I'm torn. I don't think they went into the game necessarily making Dalton Kincaid the primary option, but with Stefon Diggs continually being taken away, they saw opportunities to get Kincaid the ball, and it did allow the offense to move. And so we saw the offense make some adjustments in game and move the ball consistently. I mean, Kincaid had one drive. I forget which drive it was, but he had like 40 something yards on the drive with like 3 or 4 catches and just continued to move the ball down the field. And that was specific to your point. He became that first read on that drive. And to me, that shows they are learning in game and they are trying to get the ball to guys that are open. There's just not enough of it early on.
So I've been ready to move to defense here for like 15 minutes. And now I have another thing on offense I'm going to ask you. So one of the questions I've gotten pushback on this, and I've had other people ask this where, I think some of it's just kind of, right now everything sucks. It's easy to get emotional. It's super easy for everybody to just be like, it wouldn't matter if we got somebody else that's here because this sucks. It does.
Yes.
Sucks.
It does suck.
Do you think
firing Dorsey is going to work?
The trade deadline is in like 10 days.
Yeah.
Today, Gabe Davis had 5 targets for 1 catch for 6 yards. Do you think if they were to make a move for a veteran wide receiver, who, honestly, insert any name, someone that we think is, hey, this is a viable upgrade.
Judy and Surtain. Yeah.
Yes, if we traded for Patrick Surtain and started him at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Do you think there would be enough attention or enough priority that Josh is like, oh, well, now I have this guy, I would get him the ball more? Or some of the people, because if I put it out there, that I'll even do a realistic one, not like you did your fun one of like, oh, hey, we were going after OBJ and then DeAndre Hopkins and then Devontae Adams. And I will say, I actually think DeAndre Hopkins' contract is set up to be very tradable. But let's do a different one that I liked that someone suggested was Darnell Mooney with the Bears. Okay. His contract's going to come up.
Yeah.
He is a player that actually has some really nice advanced metrics despite playing with some horrible quarterbacks. If they were to trade for someone like that, who I think most people think is slightly better than Gabe Davis, do you think it would matter? Or hell, DeAndre Hopkins. Do you think that all of a sudden it would be Josh and be like, well, I got to get him the ball more because it's him? Or do you think we'd have the same frustration or discussion of, man, why we traded for him? Why didn't we get him more involved? Why didn't we get him more into the game plan?
Well, I
I
think
want
you
to
would.
say that, oh, that's crazy, we would play him, but
I think you'd have your answer about Ken Dorsey being able to involve those guys, right? Like if you got DeAndre Hopkins and then he's still having the Gabe Davis problem, well, then it's for sure a Ken Dorsey problem and not a Gabe Davis problem, right?
So what you're saying is we need to trade for DeAndre Hopkins to isolate the variables so that we
Correct.
know whether to blame Ken
Do we know?
Dorsey or
Well,
not.
what I will say though is, to that point, I think if you had DeAndre Hopkins on the field today, even if he's not getting the targets, it looks a lot different in how Stefon Diggs is getting guarded. I don't think there's any teams out there, or
It's way harder to constantly bracket.
Bill Belichick's not out there trying to find ways to bracket both Diggs and Gabe Davis. And this was, people can shit on Cole Beasley all they want, but they're in 2020 when he was going off and this offense was looking smooth. You saw a number of games where teams did try to bracket both those players and try to do, and
There were
then that
games where
presented options
Beasley
for
had like
everybody
15
else.
targets because
Yeah.
they just kept bracketing Diggs.
Yeah, but then there in the playoffs, there was games where it was like, oh, now teams were trying to, and I haven't seen it really since with this Bills team where they were really trying to take away two options from you, and it opened up everything else for everybody else. And so people were like, well, yeah, but Beasley didn't do much, and it's like, yeah, but then like Gabe Davis went off for a game, and that's where we all got crazy about. It was that Chiefs game actually, and Gabe Davis goes off because they had so much focus on two other guys that pulled so much gravity. I think that might be one of the issues right now for the Bills is, and again, we might have to isolate some variables here because it doesn't seem either from design of the offense and not like James Cook, I think could be that guy that pulls the type of gravity, but they aren't utilizing him in the passing game. Like maybe I would want them to pull that kind of gravity from everybody just targeting on Steph Diggs. Gabe Davis isn't that. Maybe Kincaid can be. We saw it today. I think that that is a great sign for the offense going forward, is that he is legit and can be a number 2 target. But right now, in name, Gabe Davis doesn't pull that respect from the opponent in terms of they're willing to just roll out their normal coverage over there and know that he'll have a high variance game, but likelihood is not.
Yeah. So there's a Craig's comment here. I'm going to touch on this towards the end later on. Saying, hey, do you think the Bills can win 6 out of 10 games with a much harder schedule? Hard to see wins versus KC, Philly, Dallas, Chargers, Cincy, Miami, Jets and Pats games aren't guaranteed.
Yeah.
Everything feels horrible today. I don't blame anyone for having the emotional reaction of, oh, the season's over. This team isn't even going to make the playoffs. Everything sucks. It's fine. Like, I'm not going to talk anybody out of that because today did suck.
Yeah.
And if they play this way against, like they did against Patriots, yes, hell, if they play like this the rest of the season, they might go like 7-10.
I got one though.
Hold on, let me.
Yeah.
Last week, the Detroit Lions were literally in number 1 in 2 different power rankings that I looked at because they were the hottest team in the league and looked fantastic. They got the brakes beaten off of them 38-6 today. Well, guess what? Their season's not over either. They're not going to get blown out 38-6 by every team the rest of the year. There will be more upsets today. Now, none of that is to say that, oh, don't worry, we're going to rattle off 10 straight wins here and everything's fine. Nothing is decided right now. There were moments in that 2021 season where we would do win, loss, and then we lost 2 in a row in that Tampa game, and it looked really bad. And after that Tampa game where we lost in overtime, multiple people were, nope, that's it. We're out of the playoffs. And they went on and had one of the best playoff runs they've ever had with the perfect game and the shootout back and forth, and it ended horrible. But whatever, they played the best stretch of football that we've ever seen, ever. That was the best stretch of football we've ever seen the Bills play. And that happened that same season when everybody was off the train, where everything was over. Oh, that's it. We just lost our last chance. We're out of the playoffs now. And they weren't. They figured it out. They actually still won the division, let alone even making it. So again, today sucks. This sucks. Let's talk about this. Anybody who is saying that, hey, it's going to be fine, don't worry, everything's going to be fine, they have no freaking clue. They have no idea. Anybody who's telling you that, nope, this is it, season's over, they don't have any freaking clue either. So it's nothing else is decided. Today sucks. This sucks. You can stew in that and marinate in that. I'm going to. It's going to ruin the rest of my day. But any of the rest of that stuff, we'll find out. We'll see them play the games. They're still going to line up. The schedule's still going to get played. None of that has been decided.
How many years have everybody just been like, yeah, but the Bills just beat up on bad teams, and that's why their data is the way that it is? Well, maybe this is the year where they don't beat up on bad teams and they only go beat up on good teams. I don't know. But to your point, even after that Tampa, like there were some poor performances leaking into the, like I always say, you want to be playing your best football December and January. And even in December, they were still struggling and limping through teams like
Atlanta
Carolina
game?
Panthers and the Falcons. And it was
that Atlanta game was one of Josh's worst games ever.
And it's just turning on at the right time. They are going to run out of time soon with the way Miami's playing, with the way some of the AFC is going to shape out, where you don't want to get too far behind the ball here. But they've got a lot of season in front of them. And again, luckily, I think there's been some comments here. I think luckily it is on a short week to just turn this around and not have to taste this for too long, the way you've played the last couple of weeks. You got to go out and put up a game against Tampa and get this right and get the offense looking right and get some confidence back in this team. And then I'll feel better about the rest of the stretch that we're talking about there.
So Padden here, I'm not going to pick. Padden's awesome. He'd make some of the best comments of anybody in our show, but I'm going to pick on him because a lot of other people have done this. It was literally less than a year ago. Last year, the San Francisco 49ers traded for Christian McCaffrey. I guess, sorry, I'm ranting before I read the question. When was the last time a trade made a meaningful difference midseason for a team? Serious question. Maybe the Rams a few years ago. Yes, the Rams also did it and won a Super Bowl with it. And last year, the 49ers were going to win a Super Bowl. They were the best team in the league. They were going to win. They were going to beat the Eagles, and I think, would have beat the Chiefs until literally all of their quarterbacks got hurt, because Christian McCaffrey was one of the most impactful trades that we've seen. He took what was a really good offense and made it like unguardable in their stretch last year. So we literally watched an incredibly meaningful trade that would have, in my opinion, won a team a Super Bowl 11 months ago.
So you're saying we got to get Barkley?
Yes, correct. All we got to do is trade for Saquon Barkley and we win a Super Bowl. That's how it works.
Yeah, there is a lot of football left, but to your point, like, vent. It's okay. Be mad.
Yeah, today sucks. It's okay to be mad.
Be nice about it though. Like, there's some really mean-spirited comments in my mentions. I'm okay with you handing me L's and telling me I was wrong about stuff, but man, some of the language. Let your mom see your Twitter.
Yeah.
Tough out there.
So again, I think way more of the issues overall are on offense. All of our stagnant starts, the holes that we dig, we now have gone, what is it, like the number of points in the first half, the last 3 games combined is 10 points total. 10 points total in the first half of 3 games.
Tough.
This is terrible. We cost Rich money today.
I kind of don't hate that. Sorry, Rich. Shouldn't bet on my team.
Yeah, God, that was I think the Browns and the Colts played an insane back and forth game. They looked like it was bananas, but I was too angry to pay attention to that.
I have some big concerns on the defense, though, Greg.
Yeah,
I do. You let the Giants score 20 plus. You let the Patriots score 20 plus here against you. It might have been the trade that we need to make might be the trades on the defensive side of the ball to just bring in some reserve help here.
I know it felt like it, but the Giants actually scored 9 points and didn't score any touchdowns.
Oh yeah, 9 points. Sorry, yeah.
It's okay. It felt terrible. It felt terrible. The Jaguars, we let up
on the Jaguars. Yeah, look at what Calvin Ridley did to us, and then he's like been kind of blank since. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I love Dane Jackson as a player, but he whiffed pretty big on a 30-yard gain today. Dorian Williams
that missed tackle was really rough.
Dorian Williams got benched again because he's over aggressive and over pursued misdirection, and that took off for a 30-yard play. I don't want to see Terrell
flying around with your hair on fire. Looks cool until you over pursue and miss the tackle and give up tons of yards.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, they lost on the line on the defensive side of the ball too, but I'm not going to bury on Poona Ford and Tim Settle because that rotation has taken such a big hit with not having Ed Oliver in and Daquan Jones being out for a long stretch. Like, you just went from a rotation of 4 to 5 guys that can come in and play at any time to really just like 2 guys that should probably be playing in the NFL. And that's just too much, I think, to overcome. And then Vaughn still getting right. Like, even they had misdirection and stuff like that today, but Mac looked so much more comfortable in the pocket at all times throughout this game than Josh Allen did. Like, the only time the Bills were able to really generate significant pressure in this game was bringing 4 or 5 rushers or 5, 6 rushers and bringing the blitz on him. Like, that's not a good way for this team to play defense. If they can't get pressure with the front 4, we're going to see a lot of games like this where quarterbacks can sit back, and then the lack of athleticism from Dane Jackson and Christian Benford and the slowing and the aging of your safeties, that starts to come into play if a quarterback has a lot of time to sit back there.
Yeah, there's so Josh is one of multiple people that were very, very frustrated with that. And today was the first time that a little bit of doubt creeped in my mind. I know that there is a very specific snap count plan with Von Miller. I know that they are very consciously, deciding how much he's going to play and for what frequency, and that's fine. Like, that's part of the plan. We need him for January, not for October. Of course, everybody can throw, it doesn't matter if we keep losing games and stuff. I mean,
Sure.
It won't matter. Rushing him back to play now isn't going to make any difference. But there were moments today that should have been the plays where he was in on the last drive against New England. There was a moment I was really excited. Gregory Rousseau was lined up directly over the center. Leonard Floyd was in. I think it was Phillips as the one defensive tackle, because they kicked in Gregory Rousseau to 3 tech, and it was Kingsley Jonathan that was on the outside. And like, I don't know if he had already exceeded his snap count limit that they were giving him for that game. I don't know what it was, but that was the first moment where I was like, well, I mean, that's the spot you would have him in on that play. It's 3rd and long. It's a critical spot. You kick Gregory Rousseau into 3 tech, which that's the whole thing we wanted to see. And Ed's not here, but Floyd on that side, Vaughn on that side, Ed Oliver, Gregory Rousseau going after a quarterback and be that closing unit that we need. And I'm not done with it. I still feel very confidently that, hey, it's probably more so that they're medically managing his snap count and everything like that. But today was the first time where I was like, well, that would have been a spot I would have liked to have seen him. And he didn't. I saw him on the field. He did play.
Yeah.
He's not in the box score. He didn't register a single statistic today. So I am not ready. I'm not panicking. He's still coming back from an ACL.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, he got hurt on Thanksgiving. It's not Thanksgiving yet. It hasn't even been a year since he played. But today was the first day where I was like, well, I mean, I would have liked to have seen him there, I guess. So, I don't know.
Yeah,
no. The first time there was a twinge of doubt.
Yeah, no, you want to see that. We even saw them get into some of the dime look that you want to see.
Yes,
and
you saw Dodson go off and Rep come in some of those.
And they just weren't, again, in that situation. If you're going to do that and get small, you got to get pressure. And they weren't able to they still got some pressure on that play, but not enough to do anything. And Mac drilled the ball downfield to continue on their game-winning drive. It's just, it really starts up front for this defense. If they are going to do the type of scheme that they run, where they're going to sit back in zone and let you matriculate the ball down the field, but we're going to bend but don't break, that has to, like, you can't go through a game where Mac Jones got sacked like twice. What was his sack count for this game? I don't know it up now, but he looked mostly clean today.
One. He had 1 sack. It was Leonard Floyd. That was more so like a cleanup sack as he was coming back around. It was the one where they stripped
the strip sack. Yep. Yeah. It's not, you can't play defense like that against a team like this with how also we talked to Evan, how banged up that offensive line was, and that the offensive line was literally the trickle down effect of every problem that they were having on offense. And you just really kind of bring nothing in terms of pressure. I get it. There's some big names out. Matt Milano, those are big shoes to fill. Daquan Jones, nobody's coming in and replacing that. But you've got a lot of investment still on this defensive line, and somebody's got to step up in these moments.
Yeah, and again, today is a good example. I'll use this as another one. Of course, everything feels terrible today. Everything sucks. Defensive head coaches never win Super Bowls except for Bill Belichick and Mike Tomlin and Pete Carroll, and except for the ones that
those
do.
Guys,
yeah, except for the ones that do. But besides the ones that do, nobody else wins Super Bowls.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe Sean McDermott's not the guy. Maybe Ken Dorsey's not the guy. We're gonna find out here I hate to have cliches and talk like that, but we're going to find out. Now is where you really learn who's in charge and who the leaders are in your organization. You're coming off 3 weeks where your offense is just stagnant, unable to get started quick. Your defense is just licking its wounds from missing multiple all pros, big pieces, and still trying to piece something together. And you just got your butt kicked in a division game, in a game you shouldn't lose. This should be so embarrassing to everyone in one Bills Drive organization. Like, I don't know what the press conferences look right now, but I'm sure there's some pouty Josh. I'm sure there's some annoying cliches coming out of Sean McDermott's mouth right now. I can't even think of, with all these issues that we've talked about that have reared their head through October, November, and Bill seasons past, with the type of expectations that are on this team and what we've seen over the last 3 weeks. I don't know that they've ever had more to prove in terms of the leadership in this organization than what they have right now. And so that, to me, will be the biggest story here going forward, is how does this team respond now? Like, we've heard it. We've heard the excuses. We've heard it. You say everything. We need to start faster. We need to do this. We need to do that. Now it's time to pull up your pants and do it, right? Like, it's time to correct the ship and get this heading in the right direction.
Yeah, we're way past saying the right things. I'm going to infuriatingly watch the post-game pressers. I'm sure that they'll say the right things. I'm sure that there's, a lot of accountability and a lot of, we have to be better and this isn't good enough and we're going to go back and figure it out. And I'm sure they're very good at saying the right things. So I'm sure they did. I bet they said the right things.
I'm not going to watch I'm going to go watch Bucks games or something. The rest of the night, I don't know.
I might just go watch Red Zone. I might just stop recording here and just go watch Red Zone and just watch other football. I'll go make myself something good for dinner. But yeah, there's nothing we're going to say here that is going to convince people that matter of fact, I think there's a couple people asking for, where was it here? Somebody saying the season is over. Please show me solid evidence of this season that says otherwise. They beat the Miami Dolphins 48-20. There you go. It's, yes, the last 3 weeks have been horrible. And the 3 weeks prior to that, they scored 115 points in 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
Now we need to see that they can be that team again. All the pieces on offense are still there. Every single person that was involved in those 115 points scored on offense in those 3 weeks is still here right now. We haven't suffered impactful injuries on offense. We've suffered incredibly impactful injuries, cluster injuries on defense, but that same team is still here. So I don't know what has gone wrong. I don't know what other teams have identified and adjusted to. I don't know what other teams have figured out how to take away. I don't know where those things have gone. But that's the evidence, is that, yeah, we watched them for 3 weeks score 115 points and destroy, at the time, the hottest team in the NFL, the Miami Dolphins, 48-20. And all those players and those same coaches and everyone is still here. Those are all the same players. Now, it hasn't mattered the last 3 weeks. And whether that's, some people will say, playing down to the competition, letting other people, get into those modes that, hey, you can't just get up for the big games. I have no idea. What they've done is embarrassing and not good enough. But like I said, this season, with the same players and the same coaches, we've seen the best offense in the entire NFL. And I have no idea what has gone wrong. I'm going to spend some time, just like everybody else, to cover one here, kind of digging in and trying to figure out where those gaps are and what pieces we need. But they're going to play the rest of this schedule. They're not canceling the season. They're not going to forfeit. They're going to play the rest of this schedule. And this team has to figure it out. And like you said earlier, maybe it's a blessing in disguise that they have to play again in 4 days.
Yeah, I don't have evidence either. I've always said NFL games, no matter who your opponent is, oftentimes come down to 4 to 6 plays. And those plays, the Bills are not executing on the plays that they have opportunities. I mean, that Kincaid, the one that drew a penalty for Allen, yeah, that ended up being a positive play and we continued the drive. But in a game like that, you got to find ways to generate some of these explosive. The missed Diggs. Diggs was wide open on that second drive, the play action shot. He had it. He had him beat. They dialed up the exact right call you want to look. Again, it was under center, play action, coming out to start a drive. You just scored. You got the ball back. and you take a shot play. That's exactly what I want an offensive coordinator to do. And it was just a huge misplay. Now, Josh Allen isn't going to hit every 20+ yard air throw. I get that. Those aren't super efficient throws, but it's the culmination of all those big plays just not going your way in games like this, where in previous years, when they blew out teams, 2 or 3 of those plays go your way and you connect on those and you execute on those plays. And so I am going to come back probably a lot to execution in moments. And a lot of it will be, again, we'll slice up that plurality pie of who's to blame, and everyone's going to get some in this. But there's some positives to take away from even in this with the offense. Like Dalton Kincaid having a game today matters to this offense going forward. We're looking
James
for
Cook
weapons.
continuing to look really good.
James Cook running, not only just like we expect the explosiveness out of him, getting that 20-something yard pass play in the scramble mode. Love to see that. There was one run, it was dead to rights, and he kicked it outside and he bursted with speed, got around the edge, but then put his shoulder down for an extra 2 to 3 yards.
Carried the safety for the first down.
Those types of things are positives. Khalil Shakir straight up is trending up in a really positive direction. His snap counts continue to go up. He's blocking well. Every time he was targeted, I think he brought it in, some hard catches. So you're getting some things clicking going on this offensive side of the ball. It just needs to happen more often with that type of execution happening in some of the bigger moments. That 4th and 2 moment is game changer in this game. If Josh runs that for a first down or Knox is able to hold on to that, this whole entire conversation we're having today is a totally different conversation. That first play of the game, if Josh doesn't just lay up one for a pick. And so there's 4 to 5 plays in every game. If you're not getting those to go your way, you're going to have a lot of ugly football that's going to look a lot like this. And so they need to correct some of that. Again, my biggest concern right now is, can they withstand? I think the offense is going to get right, regardless of if Ken Dorsey is a good play caller or not. I think you have too many good weapons on that side of the ball. I do think that this game put more pressure on Brandon Beane internally to maybe make a move. And I want to go back to that in a second and kick it to you. But again, we're going to talk a lot about the offense because that struggle shows the most, but I'm most concerned about what this defense is going to look like with those injuries. Are they going to be able to overcome injuries at every single level to this defense, to key players? Today, it didn't look like they can, but so I want to bring it back. I think there's more pressure right now on Brandon Beane. We know Brandon Beane loves to make moves and be aggressive. We see it in the draft where we always hear that he's calling in on everybody, but he's also a cheapskate. He wants to make these moves and he likes me. He's like me. He wants to go to the thrift store and find a nice Under Armour sweater for $12 instead of paying $60. I don't think the NFL is in mid-season is the place to get discounts. I think you're going to probably have to pay a little more than you want. So you're the cap guy. I get a lot of questions about some of these stars that are out there to be had. Realistically, what does our situation look like heading into this October 31st trade deadline? What, we only have 8 days now? 9.
It's Halloween. It has to happen by Halloween, Tuesday the 31st.
And maybe that's another blessing in disguise that you're playing. You got a quick here turnaround Thursday, and then you have a stretch of days leading into the trade deadline where now you have a full 7-8 game evaluation of the players that are in your roster, in your building, and where you need to make adjustments. One, do you think we have the resources to go out and make some of the big moves people are talking about? And what does that look like in terms of restructuring deals on some of these guys?
Sure. So the combination is the team still has some restructures they can squeeze some things around and move around, but in general, they need to work with teams who have very palatable contracts or teams willing to eat some money in exchange for a slightly better draft pick. So as an example, there's no realistic scenario where they could take on a full like Devontae Adams contract. They would need to move some things around internally, and probably ask Vegas to eat some money. So those are when there's big, huge salaries, some of those are tough to be able to fit in. Derrick Henry is another one that gets thrown around a lot. Both of those would either need to make multiple restructures on the Bills side, or would need to be in a position where they have either the Titans or the Raiders eat a big chunk of money. What they want to go after are the guys who were already restructured or already bought down into a cheap salary for this season. So again, I know people are tired of, D-Hop watch and things like that. And hey, we already did that. I don't want to go through that again. the way that the Titans restructured his contract after they signed it, he obviously had offers from the Chiefs and the Bills. Nobody knows, but my guess is those were $6 to $8 million with some incentives of what else could go on. And instead, he signed a 2-year, $26 million deal in Tennessee, and $13 million of that was guaranteed. And then there's some roster bonuses that make it so that whatever the team is, they have to make a decision next year, but there's no more guarantees. Well, the way they set it up, he has a $1.06 million salary this year. That's all that goes with in the trade. They already paid him the cash. So he already has the money. There's some per game roster bonuses, but whoever trades for DeAndre Hopkins is going to take on $1.2 million the rest of the year. The Bills can fit that. The Bills can make that work. Every team can make that work without much issue. The Tennessee Titans fell to 2-4. I think they're on bye this week, maybe.
Yes, because Vrabel's at the game.
Yes, correct. So I think they're on bye this week. So I don't know what their appetite is. That's the kind of contract. So obviously he's not the only player like that. That's the kind of contract they need to go after, where a team already did a restructure to make cap space, knock that player's salary down, and now also is willing to say, all right, yeah, we kind of thought this season was going to go better and it hasn't. So maybe we can move on. Expiring contracts. That's why I brought up somebody like Darnell Mooney with Chicago. He's an expiring contract. If they already know that, hey, we're probably not going to make a move here, we're probably not going to re-sign him, we might as well. And we're going to do some other spending. So we're not going to get a comp pick because we're going to spend money on free agents. Those are the teams that are going to be in a position to want to be able to bring somebody in and want to be able to eat some of the salary and be okay with it. But they'll want, rightfully, they'll want a decent draft pick. And so let's use Tennessee as an example. If they put DeAndre Hopkins out on the trade market, where whatever team gets him only has to pay $1.2 million, there's going to be a ton of teams bidding on DeAndre Hopkins, because a ton of teams would want DeAndre Hopkins for only $1.2 million. So no one's going to get him for some, cheap contract. And then the Titans will just have to decide, hey, do we basically want to buy a draft pick? Because we already paid him all the money. Do we want to just buy a draft pick, or do we want to keep playing with him to be able to go forward? So I'm going to do some more research to figure out there. We threw out some names last week at cornerback with Jalen Johnson, Levi Wallace, Dante Jackson. I know there's some names at linebacker that we've thrown out before, Robert Spillane, and looking at, Malcolm Rodriguez or some different pieces, guys who either aren't starting. I know Uber loves Jack Sanborn in Chicago, Kaiser White in Arizona. There's some guys not play. If all of a sudden we had to bench Dorian Williams again, maybe we need to make a move for a linebacker. Somebody in the chat asked if Ndamukong Suh has another couple snaps left in him. I have no idea, but I'm sure they're going to have to kick some things around at defensive tackle. I never thought I was going to be in a position where I had to say, oh man, that was horrible timing to lose Eli Ancow. But it was that just happened. Like, it was before Daquan got hurt.
Does seem
it's when we had 5 defensive tackles on the roster and he was on the practice squad, and it just sucked. It was just bad timing.
Seems like Ed was weird this week, though. Practiced Friday in some capacities.
Wanted to go.
Yeah. So hopefully that comes
maybe they
back.
overlooked the Patriots and thought, hey, we could win without him anyways.
Maybe that's why Von's snap count was so low. I don't know. Yeah. One more question on that. How's it work? I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to say that we should trade for Saquon Barkley, but how does it work with players on a tag?
So a franchise tag is salary. It's just pure salary. So he would be in the exact same boat as Derrick Henry. You would then have to have, matter of fact, I'll go as far as to say the Bills can't. They pure and simple cannot trade for Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley without help from the Giants or Tennessee Titans. And that would go for any other player that has a salary over $10 million. The amount of money we would have to take on, we don't have enough we have some little tricks we can do and some levers we can pull and some contracts we can restructure, but not enough to fit somebody that has, like, you'd be taking on like 6 million of theirs left. And we just don't have that kind of space to be able to do that. So as we kind of get towards the end here,
sorry, I'm yelling. I got a whole gaggle of kids playing basketball right outside this.
No,
sorry about that.
So we'll get into that. I'm going to do some more research on it because researching that is more fun than rewatching the games here. And another thing, research-wise, Matthias asked, are we the worst third and long team on D in the league? I don't have that in front of me, but I understand why it feels that way. It feels like we're the worst third and long. I would guess we're actually not. Some actually horrible defenses probably are the worst third and long defense, but we're definitely not the best. I can tell you that.
We were
do give
last
up a
year.
weird amount of third and long defenses. I don't really know. And like you said, we actually were weirdly low on third and long last year.
I think it is the style of defense they play. If you're not getting home with the type of defense the Bills play, that is going to lead you to. Yeah.
Guys can settle and find a hole in the zone.
Yeah.
All right.
Can we stop?
Yeah, I'm spent. The chat was one last request. Aaron and I sat here and poured our hearts out for you guys. We, tried to be as reasonable as possible. We did not give you sunshine and rainbows and lollipops. We didn't blow smoke and tell you that the Bills are fine. Today sucked. This was horrible. Give us a like. It really helps us out. Please go in and press the like button. It really makes a big difference. Like I said, if they play like they did today, the season is over. The good news is they might not, because the NFL is freaking weird. They might just decide, hey, we're going to be great again and play like we did in that 3-game stretch. Right now, I completely understand why everyone feels as deflated and frustrated as possible. This is one of the most embarrassing performances. I remember this is I don't know if it was actually worse than that Jacksonville team that we lost 9-6 to. I don't remember the actual roster for that team, and if this Patriots team was actually worse.
Yeah.
In the moment, it feels
they have
worse.
to be.
In the moment, it feels worse than what this Patriots team,
because they didn't have Judon and Uche, right? So at least they had Josh Allen and they had some players. I don't know.
Yeah, correct. They at least had that Josh Allen. Wait, I've been grasping the silver linings all day, trying to find something good. I have a good thing. We just gave the Patriots a win, which means they're probably not going to get Caleb Williams or Drake May, because there's a bunch of other really terrible teams that are going to keep losing. And I don't think the Patriots are going to finish 0-10. I think they're going to win at least 1 or 2 more games. So I think we maybe at least screwed the Patriots out of Drake May or Caleb Williams. I'm grasping to something. I'm just trying to find something to feel good about for a moment.
That doesn't make me feel any better.
That doesn't do anything for you?
Okay. Nothing for me.
All right, I tried.
It's a good effort. Good effort. Better than the Bills' effort on the both lines of scrimmage today.
My effort to find a silver lining was better than a great deal of the Bills' effort today on the field. So we appreciate you guys. The chat was awesome, and most of you are awesome. Some of you guys are miserable, but you deserve to be miserable. So God bless you. We appreciate everything here. Producer Chris doing a yeoman's work, sifting through those comments to figure out which ones to put up on the screen. God bless him for reading through every single comment. We appreciate you guys. So many names that we recognize every single week. I want you guys to know that we do recognize that.
Yes.
You guys are fantastic. And we appreciate that very much. We are going to have a quick turnaround here. We are probably going to produce a show earlier in the week than normal, to for our own mental health, to be able to flip the switch and move on to Tampa Bay early, but also to be able to give you guys a chance to check that out before game time comes. So take a look for that, maybe whether it's Monday night or Tuesday afternoon or something like that. We'll figure out the schedule and let you guys know as soon as possible. But appreciate everybody today. You guys were as great as can be on a miserable day. But on behalf of Chris Kepner and Aaron Quinn, I am Greg Tompsett. You've been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are out.